Welcome to Beyond the Next Chapter. I am your host, Whitney Clark, and this episode we get to travel all over the world. This one is really special because we're talking with Jen Ruiz. She's out with a new book called 12 Trips in 12 Months. In the book, Jen takes us across the globe, empowering other women to explore and consider solo travel, something that can be scary maybe if you're a young woman. Jen is a lawyer turned travel blogger and author. She's also a 3-time TEDx speaker who's written for the Washington Post, Huffington Post, Business Insider, and so much more. So Jen, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are in Arizona tonight to speak at Changing Hands. What do you think of the desert? What do you think of the weather in Phoenix right now?
I love it here. Yeah. I am actually going to be at Changing Hands because I've worked with Tempe twice before, once in February 2020 and then again in November of last year, 2023. And every time I come here, I'm amazed. The Desert Botanical Garden that you have, I was just there and saw the special exhibit. I think everything here is beautiful. It is different landscapes. The weather doesn't feel as hot because it's a little bit drier. So I internally got scared when I saw 110 on the forecast. But even then, I'm in Florida where the humidity really gets you. Yeah. So here it's still really beautiful and just a unique place.
Yeah, we say it's a dry heat and that gets a little annoying after a while, but it does make a big difference. So that kind of like eases the burn of the 110 temp. So let's talk about your book, 12 Trips in 12 Months. I mean, when did you get the idea to start on this? How long have you been working on this?
So the book came about after I took a year-long travel challenge before my 30th birthday. And I have always enjoyed traveling during my birthday as a way to mark the occasion. I learned pretty soon after college, after I tried so hard to have the perfect Miami birthday, right? This sparkler cake and VIP line and all of that. And I realized that following year when I went and flew a plane for the first time, that nothing else needed to happen that day. Just by flying a plane, I was always going to remember my birthday.
Wow.
Because it was so unique. It was so, slightly terrifying. The pilot's like, take it for a loop-de-loop. And I'm like, no loop-de-loops today, sir. And so it was a really wonderful experience. And that taught me that travel is a great way to mark the passage of time and celebrate yourself and put yourself in a setting where you're guaranteed to have memories. So for my birthday, my 29th birthday, I was doing just that. And I was in Athens, Greece, and I was at the Parthenon, this place that really should be a world wonder because it's been around for thousands of years. And I was sitting there thinking how wonderful it felt this day in January. My birthday is January 3rd. This sunny day, 70 degrees, just beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, why can't I extend this birthday celebration? Why does this happiness, this feeling have to end today? Especially because I was coming up on a big milestone birthday. I think 30 is the first birthday where we really start to ask ourselves, am I where I want to be by this point in my life? Have I achieved the things that I want to? Am I on the right track? And we really start to assess. At 20, nobody's thinking about that. You're just trying to get to 21 and have a party. And so at 30, I think everybody really can relate to that feeling of wanting to know, is this the right path for me? And so instead of pondering these big questions, maybe worrying a little bit more than I should have and sending out that year in an anxious state, I wanted to chase that feeling that I had in Athens that day and feel celebratory, feel alive. And I set out to take one trip every single month that year as a way to extend my birthday celebrations because I'd never extended them before. I never had a week-long or month-long celebration. And I thought this would be a great way to send out my 20s in style. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I was going to afford it. I didn't know how I was going to get the time off. I was working full-time as an attorney. I just knew that I was going to take on this challenge. And by the end of the year, I ended up taking 20 trips to 41 cities across 11 countries.
Wow. How were you able to do this financially? Because I think that will sort of be the first big question. As you mentioned in the book, you weren't, rolling in dough necessarily. You had student loan debt. So how were you able to do this financially?
Yes, and I was working at a nonprofit too. So it was a double whammy of not really making a lot of money. And I had noticed before, because I had moved from a private law firm to a nonprofit firm. So that with that move, I did have, some more time off. But I noticed when I was at the private firm that I had asked for a raise. You know, I had worked myself up for it. I got all my value down on paper, made my speech, went in there with my voice trembling, and got a $5,000 raise, only to find out that that came out to about an extra $100 a paycheck. So it was very negligible, the amount that I was given, you know, extra every paycheck. And that wasn't enough to be able to travel. So immediately I knew that I was going to have to figure out how to make more money. And this was a tricky one because as an attorney, you have certain like non-competes, certain appearances you have to maintain. So I wouldn't have necessarily been able to just take up a waitressing gig kind of thing. It looks bad on the legal profession. And so I ended up teaching English online to children in China. And this was the perfect solution because it's outside the country, doesn't have any issues with non-compete, totally different field, nobody sees me, and the hours are completely different. So I could work from, let's say, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and teach classes in the weekdays and on the weekends pretty much all night, let's say 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. and then just sleep during the day. And I made my first month teaching English online, which was February of that challenge, an extra $1,800.
Okay.
And with that, now I had a budget to work with for travel. And it was a lot. It was a lot of work. And there were some months where I made less because I had to, you know, pare it down to be able to still keep going. But usually consistently, at least an extra $1,000 a month, and that made a big difference. After that, I had to also cut my spending. And so I realized that on the trips, and I realized that the flight was going to be the biggest expense for most people. I couldn't afford to pay $1,000, $2,000 for a flight because then I had no other budget left over. But if I can get a flight for $300, now I have $1,500 to spend on the ground in 3 or 4 days. That's a pretty healthy budget to work with. And so even $1,000 for 3 or 4 days on the ground, pretty healthy budget to work with for a solo person. So I learned everything I could about finding cheap flights. I went to the library. I took out every single book possible. I started learning about travel credit cards. And this was tough for me because I come from a Puerto Rican background where we distrust credit, or it's looked at as spending above your means or doing something that's going to hurt you. And so I had to get past that mindset and be like, how can I actually use credit in a positive way to help me? Because in the US, we have perks like no one else does. Other countries wish that they had points and miles systems like we do. I flew with points and miles. I flew to New Zealand for $38.
What?
Flew to Ecuador for $16.
Wow.
Round trip Miami to San Francisco for $22. From Hawaii to Miami for $5.
Wow.
So really points and miles were a game changer. And it was with spending I was already doing because I'm a single person. So I pay for my own insurance, my own mortgage, my own bills, my own food, like my own gas, my own car payments, like all of that a month on one travel credit card. If you're paying that off anyway, what you're getting for that with a travel credit card is essentially free travel.
And you were good about, because the problem some people have obviously is they charge a lot, they don't pay off their credit card. You were just dedicated to, you paid it off at the end of the month and then used the points, obviously.
Yeah, it's almost hard to remember, but I do believe there was a time where I was paying this with debit cards. Like it's so weird now because it's been almost a decade and I would never use a debit card for anything at this point. Because it's to me a waste. Why am I buying something and not getting those extra points or miles for it? But yeah, I think it was just expenses I already had. I was already going to pay for them anyway, even before I had credit cards to begin with, because I didn't have any credit cards to my name. I had one Victoria's Secret card that I took out like in college and that I closed down. So that was like I had no credit history at 29. I had no credit. It just was something that my family had really ingrained in me. Like this is potentially a bad thing. And so this was money I would have been spending anyway. It was just how I would have been directing my existing money for that month. But by putting it on a travel credit card, now suddenly I could take advantage of those benefits. It is important to pay it off, so I wouldn't recommend, buying things just for the sake of getting the points and miles on the card or just for the sake of meeting the minimum spend threshold. But especially people that I see that have families, own houses, have big expenses. When I bought my new house, I spent $1,500 on like a new washer and dryer. why would you not put that on a travel credit card? It's money you're spending anyway. So I think that's the really important key. You're not going out there just looking for things to spend money on, but you're redirecting your existing expenses in a smart way where you can maximize that. So if you know that you have a card that gets you 5 times the points for groceries, you're going to put your existing grocery bill that you would have had to pay anyway on that card just to get more out of it.
Do you have a favorite card that you would recommend?
Honestly, they've just treated me well so many times. So the Chase Sapphire card, they have 2, the preferred or the reserve card, and they come with different benefits, but just one is a more robust version of the other and has a higher annual fee to match. So depending on where you're comfortable. But their benefits are incredible. They provide trip delay protection, rental car insurance. If your luggage is lost or damaged, they'll pay for the new clothes that you have to buy on the ground. So many things. And Chase has covered me multiple times. I've had a tour that was canceled that I couldn't go on, and they reimbursed me $1,600 for that. I had an issue to the rental car that I didn't even see until I dropped it off because it was so minor. It was just like a little something dangling in the front where if I had seen it, I would have just been like, popped it right back up there. It looked like it was that easy to do so. So I was shocked when I got a $2,000 bill for that. And I immediately, my lawyer mode was like, I deny liability. Going into how do we fight this? And it was unnecessary because Chase just covered it completely. I got a letter from them, maybe 3 months later. It takes a little bit of time, but this has been paid, this is done, you don't have to worry about it. So I do think that it's a card that comes with a lot of benefits, comes with built-in travel protections, comes with, global entry, TSA pre-check, priority pass, depending on which one you get. So I think it has great perks and it's a great service.
In the book, you detail some of your trips. You just talked about Greece. You went to France, you went to Thailand. If you had to pick one place that was your favorite, what was the best place you visited in that year?
It's always a tough question to answer because I think it depends on what type of feeling that place elicited. So my most adventurous trip was definitely going into a volcano in Iceland. That was a really unique experience, and to see the magma and how it formed, the colors on the rocks surrounding me, that was really cool. Just to say, I'm in the middle of a volcano right now. That's crazy. But the most peaceful place that I had was in the south of France when I was in the Gorge du Verdon and I went floating in this beautiful Grand Canyon of Europe is what they call it, in these turquoise blue waters. And I probably lean towards that trip as my favorite because that emotion of peacefulness was the most elusive for me to find when I was working as an attorney full-time. I was always so, just angry, stressed, combative. And so to feel completely at ease was such a foreign feeling for me that I recall it very fondly just because I felt so at peace that day. I just felt like there's no one to fight here. There's no one that's watching you. There's nothing happening here. You can just enjoy the moment. So that does tend to be by default my favorite, but there were so many unique experiences, I think, that year.
You talk a lot about the magic of solo travel. Did you have any apprehensions about traveling solo as a woman or just traveling solo in general? And then how did it change your opinion about traveling solo once that year was up?
I don't know if I had any apprehension because I had already had some experience with it. So I lived alone in Australia during the summer in law school, where I decided to take advantage of some kind of study abroad program. And I didn't realize how different it would be to be literally across the world from everybody you know for an extended period of time, where if you want to talk to people, they're asleep, where, it was just really, it felt very isolated. And so I already had that experience in Australia. I hit my 3-week, extreme homesickness mark where I was like, oh, I miss everything about America. And then I think once you get over that hump, you start to realize, you really start to enjoy more your surroundings and ease into it once you get over the strangeness of it all and that shock. So I had that experience already, and I knew that I could do well in that setting. So I think that's the magic. That is part of the magic of solo travel, is that you build that confidence in yourself with every trip that you take and you do successfully or even unsuccessfully. If you solve problems as they come up, even when things go wrong, it's another pebble in your self-esteem jar, right? Mm-hmm. And so I already had that knowledge where I knew I could be by myself and I knew I could survive and I knew I would be okay. I knew I would be safe. But there does come a point where it had been a few years since I had, traveled on my own. I was working in law. I didn't have a lot of time off. And you start to forget about that a little bit and you start to ease back into the societal patterns. And so the societal pattern said you travel with friends. You wait till people go with you. And so I did get to a point maybe around 28 or so where I would invite people to go places with me. And when I realized that not everybody had the same time off, not everybody has the money to be able to buy the flight right now. And that's why it's tough to coordinate with people as you get older, and that's okay. But I realized I had to stop waiting for that. If I waited forever for other people to come with me, I was never going to do anything. I was just going to sit there and spend my whole life waiting. Mm-hmm. And that's very much the point of the book, right? Encouraging people to start living your life now instead of waiting for others, whether that's a friend, whether that's Prince Charming, anybody to walk into it. And so for me, it was maybe a little nerve-wracking at first. And the first couple of trips that I did solo, again, I did a lot of research. So I would research it like crazy. Like these are the 4 trains that are coming at the time that I'm going to be at the train station. It's going to take like 4 minutes to walk from the hotel to the station. If I miss this one, here are the next 3 that are coming. Like everything totally planned out. And that helped me feel safe because I know where I'm going. I'm not walking around looking lost. I'm not looking at my phone. I don't look distracted. So that helped me feel like I have a plan. I know where, I'm walking with purpose. As I got more comfortable and I started doing it more often, I can now do things on the fly. But I think that comes again with proving to yourself that you can do it. And I think it's natural to be nervous before you leave, before a big trip, even if you're a seasoned traveler. I'm a very seasoned traveler at this point. I've been doing it full time for many years, and I still get nervous. I still get nervous before a big trip or going somewhere. It's natural.
You were able to leave your job as a lawyer. I don't think that's much of a spoiler alert, obviously, because people can look you up online at the end of the book. So you left your sort of traditional day-to-day job. What was that like to transition from your job as a lawyer to being a full-time traveler, content creator, and doing what you do now, which you've been doing for years?
It was really interesting, especially because law is such a prestigious field, and I didn't realize how much I enjoyed the looks on people's faces when I would tell them I was a lawyer. It's an immediate deference, an immediate knowledge of what you do, an immediate respect that you get. And as a, younger looking female, I really enjoyed that. And when I switched to being a full-time blogger, it's a night and day the looks I get now. Like now it's confusion. What is it that you do? How do you make money doing that? Are you poor? And so whole different regard. And that was really tough to get used to leave that prestige of a known field to go into something that wasn't even a career when I was in school, when I was considering the careers I wanted to do. And now that I've been doing it for, 6 years full time, it really has. It has felt like I've tried really hard this whole time to establish myself in this field and to find that same level of prestige again. That's why I did the TEDx talks, because everybody knows what TEDx is. That's why I became a published author, because everybody knows what a book is, Mm-hmm. And so I tried to have these traditional tie-ins. That's why I wrote for National Geographic and Photos Travel, because everybody knows these bigger outlets. And so with that, I was able to help build a career and establish myself through these other maybe better known channels so that people knew what I did. It really comes down to storytelling and destination marketing that I do now through different mediums. I can do it through a book. I can do it through an interview in the same way that you do with the podcast. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really, what are the stories that there are to tell of these places, and how can you best give those people, those small businesses, those experiences a platform so that others can learn about them as well.
Do you feel like social media and the market is oversaturated with content creators and travel bloggers? Like, do you think there's just too many people trying to do the same thing? Because it's almost like anyone that has a phone can become like viral for one thing or another. That's not to say that what certain people do isn't very like special and tailored, but do you almost think it's becoming like too hard for somebody to get into this right now if they started now?
I think everything gets saturated at some point. Books are saturated. There's like 50,000 that are released every month. Mm-hmm. And so TV is saturated. Podcasts are saturated. There's billions of people in this world. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that things are moving. I think that the more people dig in their heels and want to revert to the traditional methods of things, the more they're going to get left behind. And I've seen this a lot with traditional journalism because people are upset at the way that it's moving. But we've seen, publications close down. Nat Geo is now social first. They closed down their print publication. And this was a legacy travel publication. And so I think the more that you resist it, and the more that you say, I want to go back to the way things were, I want to set up more gates, I want to have, more obstacles for people to get here, it's not helping you. So I think the best you can do is adapt because, now we have AI coming too. So you're not even competing with real humans. You're now competing with fake human influencers too, that they're going to look perfect and their makeup's going to be amazing and they're not going to stutter and they're going to do it all in the first take. And so what do you do? Do you give up at that point, or do you just realize that with these fields, there's always going to be a sort of culling of the masses? Like now with Google, where everybody thought that they were going to be bloggers, and now a bunch of people that were career bloggers have started to look for different avenues. And so you just have to accept that this happens, and you keep trying to find different ways to still share your message on what's relevant. If TikTok disappears tomorrow, which, it might, it's on the chopping block. Really, there's so many uncertain things. I would find the new platform or wherever the new place is to make my content there. And I think if you are an entrepreneur, that is at the very core of what you do because you are constantly reinventing. You are constantly trying to find new ways to generate income. And you just have to have that in mind. If you're looking for stability, being an entrepreneur is not the place for you. And there's a lot of people too that do content creation or influencer work or UGC work, and they work full time and they have that as a side hustle. I have no problems with that whatsoever. A brand is going to know the difference between somebody who does this as a side hustle and somebody who does this full time. And there's going to be space for them to pay both, right? There's going to be space in their budget, in their marketing priorities, in their needs for both type of influencers. So I don't think that yes, there's a lot of influencers. Yes, there's a lot of competition in everything in the world. I feel like there's never been a point, applying to college, there was a lot of competition.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you just have to, you can't focus on that. You have to put on blinders and just do your best to do what makes you unique. If you start focusing on other people, trying to copy other people's styles, trying to be, always behind them, you will stay always behind them. Just be the best that you can do and lean into your skill sets. For me, maybe that was never super aesthetic, really beautiful, fit photos. I like to eat a lot when I'm traveling. I can't be in the bikini too and having my full feast that doesn't match. And so I shine in the storytelling, in the voiceover, in these hidden gems, and the value of what I'm sharing with you, maybe more so than the aesthetic. The aesthetic is kind of secondary to me. And that's my style. And there's going to be somebody else that has a different style. And I think just lean into your style and don't worry about other people. Because if you spend time trying to worry about other people, trying to worry about who's bigger than you, who has more followers than you, I know people with 1 million followers that make no money. And I know people with 20,000 followers that make 6 figures off of being an influencer. And so don't worry about that. Worry about yourself, worry about your business, and worry about how you can keep taking yourself to the next level and adapting to all of these changing things that are thrown at you all the time.
Is TikTok your biggest platform? Like, is that the outlet that you get the most kind of attention and is most popular?
It is. I've had some videos go viral on Instagram Reel when I've, shared them from TikTok. I think TikTok is a good testing ground to see what is going to have traction. I've had some videos also go viral on Facebook. And I think that that's why I have simultaneously grown so many platforms. I've always thought I could grow faster if I just were to focus myself on one platform. But the truth is I've had each of these platforms banned at separate points in time. I've managed to get them all back, but I've had my Facebook account hacked. I've had my TikTok account taken down. Like, these platforms are not yours. And so seeing how easy it is to have them ripped away at any point in time has made it so that I simultaneously build all of them. Mm-hmm. And that way, if one goes away, I still have these other platforms to go to.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is still on your bucket list? Are there locations that you haven't been to yet that you're like, this is somewhere I need to go within the next 5 or 10 years?
A ton. And I actually love TikTok for that, because when I'm scrolling and I find something, I add it to my notes app. I have a running list of like cool places I want to see. Like there's a bar in Mykonos that was TikTok famous because it's like right on the ocean. So you open the door and like you have the swell of the water coming up to the steps. There's the deepest pool in Dubai, also TikTok famous, that has, you put the GoPro underneath and you see levels and cars and all these statues and things in the pool. It's kind of creepy. I don't know that I would dive it, but I would definitely like put the GoPro in from above.
Yeah.
But I feel it would be scary to be like in it. But I want to see it because it seems really cool. The salt flats in Bolivia, I would love to go and play with optical illusions there and have it be like a little action figure dinosaur is eating me. Because it looks, to be bigger than me, or like I'm walking into a Pringles can or things like that. Mm-hmm. I've seen some really cool photos from there. The monarch butterfly migration in Mexico, where you see hundreds of thousands of monarch butterflies all at the same time. I'd love to see that too. So yeah, I have an endless list.
Has there, you see a lot of these videos and it's like Instagram versus reality. Somebody travels somewhere and they're like, this is the picture I took, but this is what it really looked like. Has there ever been a place that you've seen and you've been to and you're like, you know what? That didn't live up to my expectations. There were too many tourists, or it just wasn't as fabulous as I thought it was going to be.
I have a lot of the Instagram versus reality moments, but you just have to, I think maybe also because I create the content, so I know the angles that are used and how you're framing things to make it look that way. I think I show up with a realistic expectation of what I'm looking for.
Totally, yeah.
So I think about Bali, the temple in Bali that looks to people like if it's floating in heaven, but it's actually done with a mirror. And there's a man there who has the mirror and he does the effects and he takes the photos, and there's a long line, hours long line to get that picture. And so people are usually disillusioned. They get there and they think, oh, I thought this was going to be this magical looking place. It's just a regular gate and a man with a mirror taking tips. Like this doesn't feel great. But to me, I'm like, that's okay. I know that's how photos work, and this photo still looks amazing. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Here's a generous tip. Happy day. Like I have no problems. I don't leave there thinking, I feel gypped or anything, because I know how content creation works. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I feel less shammed or because I'm just like, I still got the beautiful picture that I wanted. It came out exactly like I wanted it to. It's a cool looking photo. Was it done with a mirror? Yeah. Am I not actually in the cloud? Okay. But but that's okay with me. And I still felt it was worth it. I would probably go earlier in the day and not wait that huge 3-hour line. And, those are also tips that I would tell people. But I still think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to have the photo and have the experience, even if it is an Instagrammable place.
Yeah. You touch on this in the book. What advice would you have for women who maybe are at a crossroads? Maybe they're in the same place you were at 30 when society tells us we need to be getting married or having babies like our friends. It can be really strange. I'm getting married later this year, but I'm 36 and don't plan on having kids. But it can be, people don't know how to sometimes react to that when you say things like that, or when you're maybe in a place that's not a traditional role that a woman sort of is in. So for other women sort of at those crossroads, what would your advice be to them if they want to dip their toes into solo travel specifically?
It is a really tough one because women in particular have this pressure to have it all and do it well. And having it all includes being a wife and being a mother. And so if you don't have that, the more you age until you get to a certain point where people stop asking. But there's a solid 20-year period where it's what's wrong with you that you are still single? Why haven't you settled down? What is your fatal flaw that you haven't been picked yet, right? Like for this dodgeball team, why are you still left on the sidelines? Because it's assumed that there must be something really wrong with you that you haven't been snatched up yet. Mm-hmm. Or that you have chosen poorly, that you have, especially now, we've seen this uptick in shaming content on social media of, oh, now you're 40 and it's just you and now you're regretting your earlier choices. When that's such a not accurate view of what happens to most women who maybe are in a relationship for a long time and then it doesn't end up in marriage, or maybe they end up having a series of, bad dates that just don't go anywhere. But I think most women find that, now more than ever, we have this pandemic of women who are approaching 40, incredibly successful, beautiful, amazing women, and can't find partners. And now at the same time, they're also getting hate from society of you did everything wrong to be here, even though this woman has really been working her entire life to do everything right. Like so many successful women in nursing and medical fields, doctors, like so many amazing women. And it's just disheartening because society does put that pressure on you. And that is a very specific point of transition, and I want my book to apply to all women that are in a point of transition. So maybe also you're like at a divorce, or maybe you're just you're at an empty nest stage, or you're starting a new career. But I think that I definitely speak to that demographic of women that I think understand and know exactly what I'm talking about and feel the frustration and don't understand why they're so amazing. And, you know, people ask them, like, why are you still single? That beats me. I don't know. You tell me. And so I'd love to tell those women that solo travel is a great way to get out of your own head, right? Because you're sitting there thinking, what have I done wrong? How can I better fix this? How can I act to do things differently? Because we're so used to acting in all of our lives, right? We act to get ahead at work, and we act to get this home, and we act to get towards our goals. So if we just put forth this action plan, surely we can also like get to this romance and this happy ending that we want. And it's not something you can problem solve your way to. And so I think that the best thing about solo travel is it takes you out of doing and it puts you into being, where you just enjoy the moment and you don't have to worry about creating an outcome for yourself. You just enjoy living that day and experiencing what you're experiencing in that new location. And it's such a magical feeling. It's like feeling so much lighter because suddenly all these self-imposed burdens and expectations that you've put on yourself, right? Because you want to be this perfect woman, and you already are. Yeah, and so I think when you let that go and you travel, it really, it does. It gives you that magical feeling of self-empowerment, of self-love, of just realizing that the timeline is not something that you can orchestrate, and that you have to be okay just being in your timeline and accepting that things are going to happen for you as they're supposed to.
And you really come full circle, and you feel that way at the end of the book. Again, without giving any like spoilers away, but towards the end of the book, you're sort of in a situation where you're like happy and content in a situation that you might not have been in previous months and years. When you were putting together this book, did you really reflect on how much you've changed? Because again, this happened in 2017. Now here we are in 2024, and you're writing about it.
Yes, it has been insane. So all the things that happened after. So after the book, I was completely single, like purposely not dating anybody for 3 years. And then I did go into a relationship for 2 years, and the sequel is going to start with, it's not going to be a smiling thing. Don't get excited, Whitney. But it is going to be a fun story, I think. But the sequel is going to start by me being dumped on my birthday.
Oh, no.
My 35th birthday on a sponsored cruise by my boyfriend of 2 years. The same day my Facebook was hacked. And then I go to a temple in Egypt where there's a magic scarab statue where if you walk around it 7 times and make a wish, you get a special wish granted to you. And so I know how wishes work, right? You can only do the one wish. And so I had the choice to either wish for my Facebook account back or wish for my boyfriend back. I don't think you understand how much having your Facebook account hacked really messes up your entire life.
Especially when you're doing this for a living.
Yes, it's a big deal. And so the only thing I'll say is that about 2 weeks later, miraculously, I did get my Facebook account back.
Do you feel like weird about, like, do you like dread your birthday because you've had some bad things happen to you surrounding your birthday? Like, do you ever like think, oh my God, what is going to happen to me on my birthday this year?
So, and actually before that Egypt trip, the year before that trip that I mentioned that was canceled, that Chase confirmed, it was actually, we had both had a plan to go to Egypt together, and he ended up getting sick. He got COVID, and so I ended up canceling the trip. That's how I ended up getting reimbursed. But I remember I really wanted to go to Egypt, and like that birthday was completely ruined. I ended up spending it like just like catering to this person. And so when I went to Egypt the next year, even after the breakup, I could not get over the feeling that this is my Egypt trip. I earned this trip, you are not going to ruin this trip for me twice. Okay? So even though I did. That was the beginning of the Crying World Tour. It was a little bit of a Crying World Tour, the breakup. So I did have a moment where I was, crying in the infinity pool by the Nile. It was really tough at the hot tub in my private spa suite. Really worst places to cry.
That's the place to go through a breakup if you're going to have to do it, right?
So even though there was that element of it, yes, I did feel like still this is my birthday. And so it doesn't matter what other people do. It doesn't matter what happens on my birthday. I feel such a joy and such a celebration on my birthday because I'm lucky to be here because I worked really hard that prior year because not everybody gets to age. Mm-hmm. And, this past birthday especially, I had a bit of a health scare. It's going to be a good second book, let me tell you. And so I did like a Queen Latifah where I was like, and I'm good, thankfully, but I was like, I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep traveling. So let's go real wild on this birthday. Yeah. And so I went to Giraffe Manor in Kenya. Oh. I had giraffes poking their head in my window in the morning, feeding them and all of that. And I went on safari at Masai Mara National Park. And then I went gorilla trekking in Rwanda.
Wow.
Where I got charged by gorillas twice.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember thinking like, this is my birthday. And so if I'm not going to be able to celebrate a future birthday, this birthday better be big. Yeah. Whatever it is, like, let's do it now. So no, nobody can take away my birthday from me because that's mine. It's celebrating my life. And so why wouldn't I be excited about that? And I hope it makes me sad when I see other people that say, oh, no, don't make a big deal about my birthday. I don't celebrate it. I don't like that. Please make a big deal about it. Make a big deal about yourself. Celebrate yourself because it is a big deal. Even if you've had a rough year, all the more reason to celebrate. Look at you still standing after that year, I think birthdays are so important, and I think you have to celebrate yourself.
I love that so much because I'm sort of someone that doesn't make my birthday a really big deal, but next birthday, it's going to be a big deal.
Yes. It has to be. Whitney, hello, you're engaged. How many things do you have to celebrate?
I know.
Better be the best birthday.
Yeah, you're right. I think sometimes we wait for like milestone birthdays. Like my girlfriends from home were like, okay, our 40th birthday, we're going to do something big. But 37, you're right. Every birthday is an important birthday.
And I think maybe I've had memories when you're young kind of shape you. So I did have a grandmother that passed away, and I know everybody had, my dad had 3 brothers, and they each had gotten her a gift for Mother's Day. Only one of them got to actually give her the gift because he gave it to her right when he got the gift instead of waiting for Mother's Day. Mm. And so I've always thought, like, why would you wait for the milestone birthday? Why would you wait for 40 to celebrate and plan a big, what's wrong with celebrating yourself at 33, at 34? Like, those are just as important. And I don't think you should ever wait to celebrate. And I just have a thing against waiting in general. Last September, there was a deal to Scotland, and I remember I went on Twitter and I was like, I don't know if I should wait to go later because I want to see the Highland Games and I want to ride the Harry Potter train, and there's only like a small window you can do that. And everybody's like, yeah, just wait till you can do it next year. And I think everybody telling me to wait triggered such a visceral response with me where I was like, no, there's no way I'm waiting until next year. We're figuring this out for right now. And sure enough, I ended up in Scotland at that last Highland game of the season and riding the Harry Potter train a few days later. So no, don't wait. Celebrate yourself now. You are worth celebrating right now, today.
Oh, I love this. You're speaking like directly to me here, and so many women. And I think it's so important to have somebody. Sometimes we just need those reminders, and you just need people to remind you of how great you are and you're worth celebrating. And you have your book out now, 12 Trips in 12 Months, that came out this year. I think this is a good way to end it. What can you tell us about your next book? Do you have any release dates? Is this gonna pick up where you mentioned kind of everything left off?
Yes. So it's going to pick up at 35, now halfway through this next decade, and really exploring some of those same themes with another 12 Trips in 12 Months challenge that I had inadvertently set up for myself because I thought this book was going to launch in the fall, so I had done it to promote the book, but it ended up being exactly what I needed on my healing journey. I was in Japan doing a kintsugi class where I learned that broken things are made more beautiful because they're broken, and you mark the broken parts with gold lacquer to help them stand out. They're more unique, these pieces, because they have this history than a brand new piece. So having these transformative experiences, going to Easter Island, Rapa Nui in Chile, and spending time with a local family there, and really just being away from everything in the middle of, a secluded island really felt rejuvenating. So there were so many experiences in that last year. Like I mentioned, the gorilla trek and the birthday trip. It really was once in a lifetime kind of trip. I hope that with that book, it solidifies this message now from a more mature perspective, halfway through my 30s, dealing with the ticking clock even stronger, right? More comments, and really coming to a place of acceptance of this is the path that I'm taking, and whatever the future holds, we will deal with it as it comes.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jen. We really appreciate it. You're here in Tempe this week. Where are you jetting off to next?
I have 2 more book signing events this week. It's a crazy week. So I will be in Dallas tomorrow and Denver on Friday. Then I have some press trips with Madison, Wisconsin and Grand Rapids before I head to a 2-week river cruise with Viking River Cruises in August. It's going to be my book tour celebration, me and my book. We're going to go to 7 new countries together. We're going to take lots of pictures together in front of important monuments. It's going to be a lovely bonding time. We both earned it. And that's going to be in August.
Cool. And then real quick before we go, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I want to, see more about her travels, I want to read her book and find more information, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me across way too many platforms at Jen on a jet plane, like leaving on a jet plane, and Jen has 1 N.
Okay, Jen, thank you so much for visiting. We really appreciate it. And you'll have to come back when your second book comes out.
Thank you, Whitney.